Okay, I think we're on. Okay, we're on, so let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Gustavo Velardinelli, and I work at Pearson. I'm part of the assessment and certification portfolio in ELL. Thank you so much for joining today. Please feel free to say hi in the chat and let us know where you're joining us from. I'm reading out some messages right now. Hello from Georgia, Argentina. Hi, everyone. This is the first of 4 sessions in the I Teach series, which is part of the Teacher Training Academy this year. And today we'll focus on artificial intelligence in education. Today's guest speaker is Mateus Chickel, who will introduce himself shortly. We'll get started in just a moment, but before we begin, just a few comments. Please remember to use the Q&A icon to send in your questions and the chat to share comments or reflections throughout the webinar. Also, bear in mind that this webinar is being recorded, so you will be able to access this recording soon on the Academy website. So if you like to review it later or maybe share it with some colleagues, you can do it. And that's it from me. Without further delay, I'll hand it over to Mateus so he can introduce himself and kick off today's sessions. So thanks again for joining, and we hope you enjoy it. Mateus, over to you.
Thank you so much, Gustavo, for the lovely introduction. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all here. Well, to see you on the webinar chat, right? I see that we have people from all around the world, so that's absolutely amazing. So my name is Mateusz Siekiel. I'm from Poland, from Poznań, and I'm very happy to be with you today. Before we start, just to be absolutely sure that everything works perfect, could you please write in the chat that you can hear me okay, and if you can see the slides. So you should see the Pearson English Assessment Teacher Training Academy 2025 on the screen. So you see everyone says that everything is perfect, so that's absolutely great. Awesome. So without further ado, let's start. Well, first of all, I'd like to tell you that the Pearson English Assessment Teacher Training Academy comprises of 3 series. We already had the Develop series. We are now kickstarting the I Teach series, and I'm very happy to be with you for that I Teach with AI part. As you can see, we'll also have follow-up webinars on the Pearson International Certificate, level test, benchmark test. And after that, we'll have a 3rd session as well, the Provoke session series, that will have describing images, reading, writing essays, responding to situations, and more like task-oriented webinars. You can scan that QR code that will take you directly to the registration for those future meetings, but you can just Google Pearson English Assessment Teacher Training Academy, and you'll also easily find the registration for those future webinars. Now, another important piece of information I want to share with you at the beginning is that at the end of every webinar, you shall receive a feedback form, which you should complete, and you'll also receive a takeaway PDF, and that's something that you'll receive after every webinar. Now, once you complete a series, any of those 3 series that I've just mentioned, you'll receive a certificate. So you'll receive a certificate for each, a separate certificate for each of those 3 series. And moreover, if you manage to complete a minimum of 7 sessions from any of those 3 series, so a few from this one, a few from another one, but once you have a minimum of 7, you can also earn a Credly badge. So definitely make sure to complete those feedback forms, familiarize yourselves with the takeaway PDFs, and make sure to complete all the series to gain the certificates and the Credly badge. Now, moving on. Again, I'm very happy to talk about I Teach with AI. So that's the topic of today's webinar. And by the end of this webinar, I hope that you'll be able to, that you'll feel that you discovered some practical AI solutions to enhance classroom engagement, that you'll learn how to personalize learning experiences with AI and find some ways to save time and focus on effective teaching strategies, to focus on those things that you actually love and enjoy doing. A few words about my background. At Pearson, I work as an EdTech specialist. I work in learning design. I started many years ago in this, proverbial basement startup in 2010, and later on becoming part of Pearson and worked on various types of content for ELL. And now I'm developing all sorts of AI solutions at Pearson. So that's my current experience at Pearson. But apart from that, I'm also an English language teacher. I usually work in higher education. I started my teacher training almost 20 years ago, and currently I'm teaching at Mickiewicz University in Poznań, Poland. And not just actually practical English skills like speaking, writing, or pronunciation, but also other types of subjects like AI and ELT for students who will become future teachers as well. And finally, I'm also a second language researcher. I've been doing research since 2010, and currently holding a PhD in linguistics. And if you're interested in my research background, my PhD was on the influence of musical hearing on second language pronunciation. So if you're interested in that kind of topic, I guess you probably can just Google that. Just Google my name and you might find some of my earlier research. So that's my background. So I just wanted to kind of show you that the reason I'm showing this to you is to tell you that I actually have I've been wearing many hats throughout my life, and I'm still wearing many hats. And this is my first question to you as a warm-up. If your teaching style were a hat, what kind of hat would it be? And just to give you some examples, is it some kind of, party hat, magician's hat, construction worker helmet, a pirate hat, or a firefighter helmet? So what do you think? So put your comments in the chat. So I see a magician, a crown, a pilot. So that's what I'm seeing in the chat. Maybe something that you don't actually see on the image, maybe something outside of the box, so to speak. I usually see a lot of magicians and pirate hats, so, interesting, right? Or a cook, an astronaut, a detective. I like this one. I was actually thinking about myself, and I think that I'm probably a detective. I like to investigate things with students. I like to kind of, find the solutions, understand what's actually happening, what's actually stopping, for example, some of my students from progressing and learning more about them. So yeah, I'll definitely pick the detective hat. Great. A lot of great ideas. Thank you so much. So definitely, I think we can all agree that as English language teachers, we wear many hats. We are activity managers, assessors, planners, educators, facilitators, informers, language models sometimes, learning counselors sometimes, and also motivators. Now, by the way, if you're interested, yeah, both of these images, as you can see, were actually AI generated with Sora. I even added a prompt at the bottom so you can kind of know how to recreate it if you're interested. Now, my first question, like a real question this time, is like, in one word, how does wearing many hats make you feel? So leave your thoughts in the chat. Just remember just one word. Exhausting, yeah, but motivated. Versatile, I like this one. Challenging, yeah, productive. Can be tiring, right? Or stressful, yeah. Also like a superhero. I like this one. So it's a challenge, feeling proud and creative and active. That's really nice. Yeah, so like a nice mixture, right? As we can see, of positive feelings and some negative feelings, unfortunately, as well. But I think we can all agree that it can be tiring, can be exhausting, but at the same time, it can be very challenging. And at the same time, it can make us feel rewarding and responsible. So these are some really great thoughts. Thank you so much for those comments. Another question also related with those many hats. Like, if you could only wear one of these hats all week, which would it be? Like, which one is your favorite? Which one is the one that you do what you do? Which one makes you love your work, you know? And yeah, still like keeping those that we see right here. So not an astronaut this time, yeah. A motivator, I see a lot. Yeah, facilitator. Hmm. I see that motivate and facilitate are very common. That's great. Yeah. So we like to motivate our students. We like to, provide them, we like to facilitate their learning so that we can see that they become, independent individuals, independent users of English, right? And I think that's an absolutely great role and a great responsibility. So I'm very happy. Sometimes assessor, I see, or planner as well. Learning counselor, maybe, yeah. But I think the most common was definitely facilitator and motivator. Motivator, probably the most popular one, which sounds really great. Hmm. Yeah, but with only one, I would feel like a robot. Yeah, so definitely we don't just want to do one of those. Yeah, we can have our favorite one, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to do the others. That's a very good point. Now, my third question to you is like, which hat do you think AI could help you with the most? Now, I'm not saying that it could replace you with that hat because probably it's not going to do that, as we know, but it can definitely help us. So which one do you think would be really nice to have some extra help on that hat? And I see planner, a lot of planning. Maybe an informer, an activity manager. Mhm. Assessor as well, to some degree, probably. Yeah. Great. A lot of great comments. Yeah. So we can see that I think probably the most common one was planner, activity manager, assessor, but also sometimes all those other hats also kind of appeared as well. Informer. Great. Thank you so much for these. So we can definitely tell that, this is a complicated thing, right, for us. Now, I want you to kind of have this image of those many hats in the back of your head, and we will return to this one. But before we actually go back to those many hats and how AI can help us with those many hats, I have a couple of more things that I would like to discuss with you. Now, the first one is this big question right here is how often do you use AI chatbots like ChatGPT for work or school? Is it A, once a week or more, B, every once in a while, C, never, and just to kind of see what's like the most common one. Sometimes, yeah, some people write a lot, yeah. So a lot of A's, lots of B's, probably A's and B's, some C's as well. Or like a lot. That was also a very great comment. Thank you. So I think that we can agree that A's and B's are quite dominating on this in the chat, but there are also some C's as well, which is good to know. Great. So, with that in mind, I'd like us to have a look at some statistics and be mindful here that we're talking about a source. The source here is the impact research from last year. It was an online survey for about 4,000 teachers, parents, and students in the US. I actually specifically picked like a last year's source because, well, we know that this might not be a representative sample for other countries and other regions. So I think it's safe to say that having this at least this 1 year gap can give us a little bit more perspective. So let's have a look, right? So when it comes to teachers, right, in that sample, half of them claim to be using AI chatbots like ChatGPT once a week or more, and 25-ish% picked every once in a while and never. Very similar results can be seen across K-12 students, undergraduates, even higher ratings, especially for using every once in a while, and also quite high ratings for parents as well. So I think that we can safely say that generative AI in the form of AI chatbots is very popular, is being used by teachers, students, parents, and we cannot just ignore that fact, and we cannot just pretend that our learners and teachers are not using this technology. At the same time, we have to remember that AI can provide us information, but it can't really replace a teacher because simply consuming information isn't the same as learning. And there's been already a huge amount of research done on the effect of ChatGPT on students' learning performance, learning perception, higher order thinking. So there was, like, for example, this one, a fairly recent insights from a meta-analysis. However, I think it's still important to take into account that these studies are not actually showing us the big picture because they often focus on higher education, omitting primary education or secondary education, or they are just relying on a fairly small sample on a fairly short period of time. So we still need more research, more longitudinal research, more research on big numbers of students and from various perspectives and from various segments, both primary, secondary, and higher ed. So that's something that we have to bear in mind. But okay, but let's stick to that fact that yes, AI can provide us information, but it can't really replace a teacher. So we know that students are using this, but if they are just using it to consume information, they're not really learning, and then they can quickly become over-reliant on this technology. So what can we do as educators about this? So what do you think we might do here so that at the same time we are aware that they are using that technology, but at the same time we know that like over-relying on this technology is actually might not be that beneficial for them because they might just, consume information and are not really going to learn. We need to definitely take an advantage of it. Yeah, thank you, Janet, for this one. Plan projects with a little help of AI. Yeah, so like having it more like perhaps like a support. Yeah, yeah, have some, yeah, try to solve problems, try to integrate it into our classes. Yeah. And use it to brainstorm. Yeah. So I think that we can, agree that we can definitely integrate AI as a complementary tool, right? So it can enhance our lessons, it can generate extra practice, it can support learning differences, but in the end, it will only be a supporting tool for us. And with that perspective, with that thought, we should continue, right? Now, at the same time, we know that there are some other problems with AI. One of them is that AI can hallucinate. Now, AI hallucinations is pretty much means that AI can make mistakes, AI chatbots can make mistakes because of misunderstandings or missing information. Now, that is a considerable challenge for us as educators because we usually don't operate with technology that can, well, sometimes give us wrong answers. So, and at the same time, we know that our learners are using it. So what can we do about this problem, right? What do you think might be here the solution? So if we know that our learners are interacting with a tool that can potentially provide them with some misinformation, what can we as educators do about this? Getting into prompt engineering, right? Helped me a lot. Yeah. Thank you so much for this insight. You're definitely writing good prompts that we'll definitely talk about this a little bit more. We should teach them to use it properly, yeah, or use it responsibly, I would say. Yeah. Never trust it without sources. That's a very good point. Like to tell your students, use it, but no, yeah, you can always use it, but you should never trust it. I think that's a very good approach. Double check the information, right? So teach them critical thinking and assessing information, right? Or great. How to write good prompts, probably. Also, that might be helpful, yeah? Or learning how to check several sources. Use it not to trust it. Yeah. A lot of great points. Thank you so much. So I think that we can definitely say that using AI errors as teaching moments is a great opportunity for us, right? Because we can encourage learners to fact check and think critically to build digital literacy. And it's actually not just digital literacy. If we think about this on a greater scale, this is actually very important for life skills and social skills as well. Now, another big problem that we have to be aware of is that cheating with AI is pretty hard to prevent because AI-generated writing can be difficult to identify. And there's already been a number of studies showing that AI detectors are biased against non-native English writers, which means that if you have a learner who's learning patterns and is going to use those patterns in their own writing, an AI detector will treat these patterns as AI generated. Well, because that's what they are patterns. And if we think about AI as a tool that is pretty much giving us next word prediction, the issue here is that it will also consider this type of writing as next word prediction. So that's a considerable challenge for us as educators. So using detector tools is actually it. So for example, I see in the comment like using detector tools, that's actually one of those problems that those detector tools are actually not working that well because what they do is that they just analyze the text based on probability, that they are checking what is the most probable next word. And since AI is also generating the most probable next word, well, the problem then happens that a non-AI generated text can be detected or identified as an AI generated piece of writing. So I'm looking at the chat and I see that for example, you're proving the point of view. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, so we might have a nice discussion with the students. So it's not just that we are assessing their work, but we are actually engaging in the discussion, or maybe we are just following up with questions that may be useful. I see checking that students understand and can support what they have written. Great points. Thank you so much, because that's actually what I was driving at, is that we should focus on the process-based assessment. So we, instead of focusing on the end result, on the product, we should look at drafts, reflections, and in-class writing to actually assess our learners' skills and capabilities in writing. Now, given all that, I think that what we can say is that we have pretty much like 3 options to choose from. And these options have been outlined by Professor Ethan Mollick from Wharton University. And he pretty much identifies that we as educators have 3 options. We can either ban AI in the ELT classroom, we can casually integrate it, or we can transform ELT with AI. Now, let's start with that first step. Let's say that we want to ban AI in the ELT classroom. And so we're not going to use AI at all in the classroom. What happens then? Like, what might be a potential positive or negative effect of this approach? What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the chat, please. Yeah, impossible to ban. It might be really difficult, right? Because, even when you're going to say that you can't use it in the classroom, there are some other problems, right? Negative effect on students. Students will use it anyway, probably using it. Yeah, they will use it outside to cheat or outside the classroom. And it's too useful a tool to ban. That's also a very fair point. So yeah, I think that we can definitely agree on this one, that classroom, it cannot be really controlled outside of the classroom, and restricting access may actually prevent students from learning how to use AI responsibly. So that's probably not the best approach. Another approach is to just casually integrate AI in ELT, so like without creating any policies or regulations or rules. But that's also a problem, right? Because, while earlier AI systems often made mistakes, and we still know that current chatbots also generate mistakes or hallucinations, as we've already established. But the fact is that newer models are more reliable and they can potentially lead to AI over-reliance. So if we are not going to create any rules, any frameworks, or any strategies, this casual integration of AI in ELT can actually be quite harmful to our learners as well. So we are left with that final option to transform ELT with AI, right? And it won't happen on its own. We need a clear framework, a thoughtful strategy, and the right skills. Yeah. So that would be my recommendation. I'm just looking at the chat because I see great discussions there. So thank you so much. Yeah, to ban AI, we should ban phones, and students won't do that. That's a fair point. We use it casually, might get out of control. We need to structure an agreement, good communication with the learners. That's really great points. Thank you so much. So let's start with the framework. One framework that I would like to recommend for you is the AI assessment scale, and it is a practical framework to guide the appropriate and ethical use of generative AI in assessment design. And it's created to empower educators to make, those purposeful, evidence-based decisions. It has been developed by Mike Perkins, Leon Furs, Jasper Rowe, and Jason McVeigh last year. I will share with you the link to that framework, so you can have a look at this later on as well. So I'm putting the link in the chat for everyone. So how can we understand this framework, and how can we use it for ELT? Because it wasn't created specifically for ELT. It's created for education in general, but we definitely can use it for English language teaching. So it has 5 levels. Now, the first level, the no AI level, assumes that students are not allowed to use AI at any point, and they should rely on their skills and knowledge. So we should create such activities that will follow this rule. Maybe these are assessments, tests, in-class writing activities, etc. So we definitely need some points, some types of assessment that won't use AI at any point. Another one is AI planning, and that's a level where AI can assist learners in brainstorming and research, but the final work must reflect independent thinking and refinement. So that's something that you could ask your students to do. You could create for them an activity and tell them, for this activity, yes, you can use AI. It can assist you to brainstorm ideas, to do some research, but remember that at the end, you have to reflect on what the AI provided to you. The third level is AI collaboration. So AI can help them with drafting, refining their work. And again, learners will have to critically evaluate and revise that AI output, and will have to basically provide you an argumentation why they've used it and how was it good or bad for their particular use case. Next one, full AI integration. So that's like a level where you can allow your learners to use AI extensively throughout the task, but at the same time, you want to kind of focus on you want your learners to focus on directing AI and demonstrate critical thinking. So that level might be, for example, to ask your students to write prompts and explain how they wrote those prompts when engaging with an AI chatbot. And finally, probably the most, I would say, challenging one, but at the same time quite rewarding, might be the AI exploration, where we can ask our students to use AI creatively to solve problems and to innovate, so they can feel as problem solvers, innovators, creators, co-creators of work with AI. So we can encourage them to co-design tasks and explore new AI uses. So this is an interesting framework. I definitely recommend having a look at this one. Check the link that I shared with you in the chat. I'll put it one more time in case someone missed it. So have a look at this one and research it later on thoroughly. So that was the framework, but that's not everything. Another thing that we have to think about is the strategy. Now, this is there are 2 types of AI strategy according to Dr. Philip Hardman, who's a great learning designer and a great source of inspiration. I definitely recommend checking out her newsletter. It's Dr. Phil's newsletter powered by Dom's AI. You can find it easily online. And in this particular issue of that newsletter, Dr. Hardman presented 2 types of AI strategy: automation and augmentation. Now, the first one, automation, pretty much means that we can use AI to make learning and design more efficient. So we optimize for speed and cost. And sounds very like business oriented, you might think. Another one, which in my opinion is much more interesting for us as educators, is augmentation. So this means that we want to use AI to make learning and design more effective. So we want to optimize for impact, for return on investment. The truth, however, is that most of those AI solutions that you can find online, especially like created by all kinds of apps and websites that use this approach, they usually focus on AI automation, right? So I would say that that's probably the majority of use cases. What we see is that we are just creating more content faster and cheaper. But at the same time, what I think it might be much more interesting is to try to find out new ways, new approaches of using AI in education, in learning and design. So we can actually come up with more effective results and more effective approaches so we can optimize for that impact. And with that mindset, I would like us to continue and see some other ways. So and the final bit that I would like us to talk is the skill set. Now, it was already mentioned in the chat that we definitely need prompt engineering here. Now, what is prompt engineering? And is it something technical? If you could tell me in the chat, that would be great. So how would you define prompt engineering? And a very important question as well, is it actually something technical? So it's like learning to give proper commands, yeah, to get proper curated answers. Thank you, Ahmed. Nothing technical, actually, that's true. Learning with structure. So providing some kind of structured approach here might be important. Generating good commands, yeah, so or using a prompt according to what we need or want. Great, thank you so much for your suggestions. So I think that we can agree that yes, prompt engineering is a process. It's a process of crafting or creating or writing an instruction to produce the best possible AI output. And actually, it is not a technical skill. And it's I wouldn't say that it's actually a skill by itself. It's more a process, but it relies on a number of non-technical skills like language, communication, creativity, critical thinking, and very important, of course, subject matter expertise. So we have to be the experts here who are interacting with the AI because if we are not the experts, we'll not be able to rightfully assess the output from the AI chatbot. Now, good news for us as language teachers is that all these skills are, as you can see, soft skills that we very often teach in the English language classroom, right? Because of course, we teach language, but we also teach our learners how to communicate. We teach them how to be more creative. We like to foster creative thinking, and we definitely want them to be able to express their subject matter expertise through language. And I think that's a great piece of news for us because that means that we as language educators are not just teaching to communicate between people, but we also can teach our learners how to become better communicators with AI systems like AI chatbots. Now, a good prompt usually comprises of at least three elements. Can you perhaps guess what those elements might be? If you had to construct a good prompt that's going to do what you want to do, how would you generalize it? Like, how would you define those three elements? Some kind of role, context, action, perhaps. That's a nice one, definitely. First step is to give AI a role. Perfectly agree with this one. So yes, definitely we should start with a role, yes. For example, telling it that you are an expert English language teacher, you teach at B1 English level, and what that level means by providing it maybe CFR description so it understands that context a little bit more. So that's a very good approach. Yeah, so it's actually not just providing the role, but also providing a bit of context as well, or the target audience as well. That might be also included in that role. So once we have that role, that context, target audience, what would be the next step that we should do then? the action, right? Perhaps the topic or like the actual goal. Great. So the task, right? So like that, we can, for example, ask it to create a lesson plan, a warm-up task, a project outline. That will be probably our next step. And finally, I would say that the format is also important. And by format, we mean not just actually those text formatting things like, like write me 3 paragraphs or use 60, 80 words, but we can also inform it about the language, the register. We can inform the AI chatbot what kind of grammatical structures we want or vocabulary we want to be used. And you can also, in the format bit, you can also think about what kind of interaction are you actually expecting? Are you just expecting the output? Are you just expecting the AI to create an outline for you or the text or an activity? Or maybe you are actually planning something more interactive. Maybe you want the AI chatbot to interact with you for some periods of time and by asking you questions, or maybe you wanted to ask you questions one by one. So it's not like a list of questions, but it's going to ask you a question, then you provide the answer, you ask another question. So this is a very great place where you can state those instructions, like ask me questions one by one, or provide feedback after my every sentence, etc. So there are a number of elements to the format. So yeah, the role task format, or also known as the RTF framework, is actually a very popular, probably the most popular framework in prompt engineering. So I definitely recommend following this one. There are plenty of other frameworks, but to the best of my knowledge and like from my experience, I can tell you that they all gravitate towards pretty much the same elements. They might use different terminology, or they might slightly change the order, but in the end, it all boils down to these 3 core elements. Now, going back to our question that we had earlier, right? So which hat do you think AI could help you with the most? Let's have a look at some potential solutions for each of these, right? So for example, the activity manager. Now, an activity manager plans and leads classroom tasks that build the skills needed for success, encouraging learners to use English actively for targeted exam relevant practice. Now, what might be the biggest challenge for an activity manager? Might not know the class, might lack human touch, so that would be for the AI, right? So let's think about for now about the human, right? In the loop. So for us as teachers, what is the challenge when we are teaching, when we are the activity managers, and we want to plan and lead classroom tasks? So what do we need? Scaffolding, qualification differences, engagement in the classroom, pace and timing, organizing tasks, creating a variety of tasks, motivation, level diversity, right? So the differences between language levels of our students. Great points. So thank you so much. Right. So definitely, yeah, designing engaging level appropriate activities takes time and doesn't always meet our diverse learner needs. So we can use AI to generate differentiate and adaptive activities aligned with CFR levels and test objectives. Now, at the same time, I would be very careful here with the leveling because not every AI chatbot is equally good in providing level appropriate output. Now, the reason for this is, of course, the training data. If we think about the training data for these large language models that are powering the AI chatbots, the majority of the content that they've been trained on is native content. Probably most of it comes from social media, but also from open books and etc. So a lot of that content is probably going to be on around B2 C1 level. So asking for an AI chatbot to generate an A1 level text can be actually quite challenging, but it doesn't mean that it's not possible. So let's take a simple prompt and specifically for this, I'm just going to simplify those things because otherwise I would have to write very long prompts for you guys. But let's take this first one. So creating free 10-minute per activities to practice question formation for A2 level students of English. So let's go, for example, to ChatGPT. let's put that prompt in. Now, before I actually put that prompt in, I also wanted to show you a couple of things. Like one is if I go to my settings and if I go to my customization of the chat, you can see that I've already provided a couple of some information about. So what do I do? What traits should the chat have? So I decided to create it in such a way by just actually not doing anything unusual. I just relied on these suggestions that appear right here. I asked it to adopt a skeptical questioning approach, but take a forward-thinking view, use formal professional tone, be practical, and be innovative and think outside the box. So that's what I asked it. At the same time, it knows that I'm an edtech specialist, higher ed lecturer, and researcher. So with that in mind, I have the following prompt, and I'm going to put that in, and let's see what kind of output we're going to receive in a minute. And meanwhile, I'm going to have a look at the chat to see if you have any questions or suggestions. And of course, if you have your own suggestions for prompts for that particular topic that we are right now doing, so we are on the activity manager level, so we are thinking about designing engaging, level appropriate activities. If you have your own suggestions, please leave them in the chat. If I'm not going to notice that, then definitely other members will use it to their benefit. So please do share as a community on the chat. So let's see. So free 10-minute pair activities designed to help A2 level learners practice question formation. Finding the question, objective, learners reconstruct full questions from jumbled elements and then use them in pair interviews. So we have some materials, set of jumbled question cards, give each pair jumbled questions, pairs race to unscramble each one correctly. Okay, so that's like one idea that I might potentially use in my classroom. Yeah, question swap walk. Learners practice forming and asking WH questions based on visual and contextual prompts, cards, etc. So a lot of materials that I might need to create. Interview prompts with missing questions. Would you like these activities adapted to include grammar point maybe or thematically linked? So it's actually also a nice feature of the current AI chatbot by OpenAI is that it also likes to ask you questions at the end. So instead of just providing you the output and just finishing on that, it will give you some other ideas that make them, for example, make them about maybe daily routines, right? Why not? So we can get some interesting points from the chat as a part of that conversation. Providing more detail, yeah, providing more context. So definitely, this is, as you can see, on a very basic level, right? But if I provided it more information about my classroom, if I'm going to provide it how many students I have, what are the interests of my students, what are the levels of my students, then it is possible to create those free activities in such a way that each one of these activities would be for a specific audience, a specific group of our students in our class. So there are plenty of opportunities here as well. And again, we have another follow-up. Would you like printable handouts or editable templates for these tasks? So it is possible to ask chat to generate a PDF or a Word doc. Sometimes it might not work on the first try, but definitely try this out and you might actually receive, if you don't just want to copy that content and put it on in your doc and then rework with it and readapt it to your own needs, you can actually ask it to generate a doc as well. So that's an interesting follow-up to this activity. Let's move on and let's try the assessor. I think that this one was actually also fairly often pointed out in the comments when we discussed which hat would definitely use some AI help. So with the assessor, it monitors learner progress by providing timely feedback that helps students improve their exam performance and language accuracy. So again, what do you think is the biggest challenge here, like for us as teachers, like being an assessor? Being fair consistently. A lot of correction, a lot of grading. It can be quite time consuming. I think that we can all agree with this one. Number of students, definitely. Maria, thank you. It takes time. Yeah, so that's true. So the challenge is that we want to provide fast, accurate, and personalized feedback, but it's quite difficult with large classes and exam pressure. So a potential solution might be to use AI to provide, in my opinion, surface level feedback based on test rubrics and offer improvement strategies. So there are different types of feedback that we can provide as teachers, and I still believe that I wouldn't personally, delegate the whole assessment to the AI. But what we can definitely do is that we can at least ask AI to review the student's work on that surface level. So like on grammar, spelling, punctuation, and sentence structure. And then it gives us more time to focus on other elements that matter, like the logic, the coherence, the creativity of our learner. Those are some of the things that AI is not going to verify in the same way as we are capable of doing, right? So again, well, let's try this one. And in order to do this one, I'm actually going to put an example text. So I have the review this B1 level essay, provide feedback on grammar, spelling, punctuation. And here I have a sample essay. Well, it's not really an essay, it's like a shorter form, like an incomplete essay as an example. So let's put this one in and let's see what kind of output we're going to say. I think it's quite important to tell the chatbot what is the level of our student, because if we are not going to provide that information, it might just assume that we are expecting an absolutely perfect piece of writing, and that's not really the case. So let's see. Here's a professional review of the B1 level essay with attention to grammar spelling. So corrected version with notes. So we have original corrections, notes. So we have specific points on spelling errors and grammar, like fewer jobs, less jobs. That was in the original, or quiet places in the city too. So using punctuation as well. Now, it also listed the strengths and free areas for improvement, just like I asked it to generate. So clear structure, effective use of linking words. So some points that we can easily like add to our feedback and tell our learner that, oh yeah, by the way, yes, you did use firstly, secondly, that's good. But at the same time, you made some grammar errors, you used some repetitive sentence starters, maybe there was some kind of limited sentence complexity here. And some forward-looking suggestions from the AI as well, like incorporate relative clauses, use a wider range of vocabulary, practice editing techniques. Now, as you can see, some of those recommendations might be good, but for example, if we know that we haven't taught relative clauses, then that piece of information might not be actually that relevant for us. So we definitely have to be here. I wouldn't say in the loop, because you probably often hear that phrase, be the human in the loop. I would say be the human in the center, because we as teachers, we have to be in the center when it comes to assessment, when it comes to being the assessor. We can definitely be supported by this tool, and it can save some of the time for us, so we don't have to find every typo or every comma missing, but instead focus on those things that actually matter. Just looking at the comments, because I'm also seeing a lot of great suggestions. So depending on the task, you can feed the AI with a rubric so the corrections are more adapted to the different levels. So that's definitely a great point. And you can access speaking, like transcription, then asking AI to evaluate with rubrics. So a lot of great suggestions. Thank you for sharing these. Now, moving on, the planner. I think that one was probably the most common one in the chat. So let's have a look at the planner. So planner designs lessons that develop key competencies, ensuring clear progression and alignment with learners' English proficiency levels, right? So the challenge here is, of course, that we lack time to plan personalized test-aligned lessons. So the potential solution here is that we can use AI to create lesson plans tailored to our learners' goals and test targets, right? So we can, for example, ask it to design a 45-minute listening preparation lesson for B1 learners focused on multiple choice strategies. So let's try this one as well. And now, as I mentioned with the leveling, I think that's pretty important to emphasize, right? That now we always need to double check the leveling, make sure that the language that is being suggested is appropriate. We can, of course, provide more context to the model. We can provide the list of the vocabulary that we want to teach. We can provide additional materials, perhaps the grammar points that we are actually teaching right now. So there's like plenty of elements that we can add to those prompts so that the output is going to be much more aligned. This is just more to give you some suggestions on how you can use these tools for various types of responsibilities and roles that we have as educators. So definitely creating a lesson plan for listening preparation with multiple choice strategies. So we have the lesson breakdown, strategy instruction, tasks, reflection, adaptation, etc. Would you like the plan adapted into a slide deck or printable handouts? So also another supporting question from the chatbot. Yeah. Now, since we are slowly running out of time, I'm probably not going to be able to show you more of these examples, but what I would like to leave you with are some thoughts and suggestions. So when it comes to being an educator, we know that like keeping up with learner interests while teaching foundational skills like grammar or pronunciation can be a challenge for us. So we can use AI to contextualize grammar vocabulary topics with student-generated content maybe, or media, or their interests. So we can, for example, ask the AI chatbot to explain the present perfect using gaming examples suited for B1 learners. And some of you might be thinking, well, I'm actually not a gamer, so I'm not be able to assess whether those suggestions are good or bad. Well, that's actually a very interesting case that you can use with your learners, because what you could do then is you could create that that activity, and with that activity, you could then share it with your learners and ask them questions that, do you agree with those examples? Or do you think that they are actually appropriate? Are they actually connected with those games or not? And they can give you some interesting comments and they will become very engaged, because we all know that learners like to find mistakes. They like to find that something is actually not appropriate. So it might be actually a great opportunity for our learners to be more engaged. So it doesn't have to be that perfect content in this case, in terms of that context, in terms of, in this case, having knowledge about computer games or gaming in general, but it actually can really interest students because they all question whether that content that you are providing them is actually connected with their interests. So I would definitely say that it might give you some great ideas and suggestions as well on this one. Now, moving on to the facilitator. So the challenge here is like supporting peer interactions and independent work is challenging within limited class time. So we can use AI to structure group tasks and flipped learning based on test tasks. This is an example prompt. You can suggest a flipped learning task where AI A2 students learn vocabulary on the topic before class, so it can generate for you an idea for a flipped learning approach. The informer would be, for example, to use AI to simplify and clarify complex ideas at the right CFR level. So asking an AI chatbot to rewrite a reading text for A2 level, so lower level learners can still understand the topic. I would here, in this case, I would be careful with A1. A1 is probably very difficult to achieve with a large language model. A2, I manage usually to get that A2 from ChatGPT. However, if you try to use other tools like Claude or Gemini, it might be actually a bit more challenging. So depending on the nature, on the level of your students, you might also want to rethink the use of other AI chatbots that are available. Now, being a language model, right, is also another challenge for us because we know that students need that natural exam relevant language input to model their speaking and writing. We want to provide them a variety of content. So here we can have actually a great opportunity for our learners to simulate a B2 level speaking task we can ask AI to ask questions and provide short feedback using simple language after every sentence or after every output. And this way, we can actually create a conversation for our learners. In this case, I always recommend adding some additional information to the prompt, like use very simple language, use very short sentences. So when you add that to the prompt, that interaction between the learner and the chatbot is actually going to be much better in terms of language and in terms of controlling that output. So you can even provide some examples of interactions that you were expecting. And this way you can create a much more realistic and more natural conversation. Same with learning counselor, perhaps making a progress tracker that B1 learners can use to monitor their performance in speaking over 4 weeks. That might be one potential example. So using AI to design tailored learning paths and tracking progress is definitely another suggestion that I would like to share with you. And finally, the motivator. I think that one was actually the favorite one that we actually like to do. So I would say that we as teachers should always remain as motivators, but we can always ask it to create some fun speaking warm-up activities, maybe asking AI, like, how can we boost confidence of our learners before exam practice? So it can give us some suggestions and ideas on how to make these activities not just about language, but also about confidence boost and other elements connected with anxiety and engagement and motivation. So that would be my final suggestion. So based on all these, I think that we can say that AI can support every teacher role, but at the same time, we have to remember that when working with AI, we are the one in charge. So we have to provide the information that we feel is the most useful and that it understands the context, that it knows what we actually want to do, that we want to have the type of content that is specifically tailored for our learners and not just a generic type of content that we can easily find online, that we can actually create something that will be specifically created for our classes. And finally, using AI to elevate our classes, not to complicate them. So if you feel that something is just taking more time, I would say that that's not the right way to go. So definitely always try to find those solutions that work for you. You don't have to focus on all those different hats of an English language teacher. Just pick one and explore one of them. And if you find that it works, that's great. If you explore another one and it doesn't work for you, that's also a valuable piece of information. And then you can skip to another one. And so I would say that exploring AI through those many hats of the English language teacher is a great approach. And I hope that you enjoyed this one. So thank you so much. I see a lot of thank yous in the chat and for the advice. So I hope that you enjoyed the series. So just once again, a reminder that at the end of every webinar, you will receive a survey, right, and a takeaway PDF. So make sure to complete that questionnaire, send it, and submit it. And remember that once you complete the entire series, you can earn a certificate. And when you complete at least 7 meetings from any of those 3 series that we've presented, you can also earn a Credly badge. So thank you so much. I hope that you have a lovely rest of the day and a lovely rest of the week. And see you next time, or we can also find ourselves somewhere online. So thank you so much and goodbye.